You see, one of the most profound realizations in life is that love, when it's truly meant for you, doesn't arrive wrapped in confusion. It doesn't come knocking at your heart with noise, demands, and chaos. No, when love is sent by something greater than yourself, when it's guided by the divine, it comes quietly, gently, almost unnoticed at first, like the morning light slipping through the window before you even open your eyes. It doesn't disrupt, it awakens. You simply begin to feel a peace that has no reason, a calm that has no condition. And that's the first sign. You see, we've become so used to associating love with drama that peace feels unfamiliar. We think that if it's not passionate to the point of pain, it's not real. But love from God or love from truth doesn't burn you, it warms you. It doesn't make you lose yourself, it helps you find yourself. There's a difference between a fire that destroys and a fire that gives light. The kind of love sent by the divine is always the latter. It illuminates, it clarifies, it brings balance. Think about it for a moment. When someone truly meant for you enters your life, there is no need to perform. You don't need to wear masks or play games. There's no fear of saying the wrong thing or being too much. Their energy doesn't demand that you change, it invites you to be. It's as if your soul recognizes them before your mind does. You feel an ease, a sense of belonging, not because they complete you, but because they allow you to rest in who you already are. That stillness you feel inside, that quiet knowing, that's peace. And peace is the language of the divine. Now, many people confuse excitement with connection. They chase the butterflies, the rush, the intensity. But they forget that storms, too, are intense. Noise, too, can be mistaken for music. You can't hear the truth of someone's soul when your mind is screaming with longing or fear. That's why real love often feels different. It doesn't always come with grand gestures or fireworks. Sometimes it's the quiet text that says, "I'm here." Sometimes it's the way they listen without trying to fix you. Sometimes it's the silence that feels safe instead of awkward. You don't have to fill the space with words, because peace already fills it. The divine doesn't send people to test your strength through chaos. Life does that already. When God sends someone, it's to teach you the meaning of stillness within connection. It's to remind you that love is not about ownership or validation. It's about harmony. There's no struggle for control, no competition of egos. You both stand as two complete beings who simply choose to walk together. And when love is like that, it flows naturally. You stop asking, "What are we?" and instead begin to live, to experience, to breathe together. If you've ever met someone who made you feel calm just by being in the room, that's what I'm speaking about. That calm is sacred. It's the soul recognizing alignment. You don't overthink, you don't question if they'll leave, because something deeper in you already knows. They're not here to play games with your heart. They are here to reflect a part of the divine's gentleness back to you. Their presence doesn't just bring peace, it becomes peace. But the tricky part is, most people overlook this kind of love because it doesn't feel dramatic enough. We are addicted to the adrenaline of uncertainty, the thrill of chasing someone who keeps running. We mistake emotional chaos for passion and call it love. Yet love that's truly from above doesn't throw you into confusion. It steadies you. It roots you. It may not always be easy, but even in difficulty it carries grace. Even when you disagree, there's a softness in the air that reminds you you are on the same side. When love is divine, It doesn't demand that you sacrifice your peace for the sake of staying. It encourages you to keep your peace while growing together. You learn that the right person won't ask you to dim your light, silence your spirit, or compromise your truth. They will sit beside you and marvel at your glow. They will challenge you to expand, but never to lose yourself. They will bring calm to your storms, not more storms to your calm. And so, if you find yourself at a crossroads, wondering whether what you're experiencing is love or attachment, ask yourself one question: does it bring me peace, or does it bring me anxiety? Because the answer will tell you everything. The universe, God, whatever name you give the divine, it doesn't speak in riddles when it comes to love. It speaks in feelings, in energy, in peace. And that peace is not boring, it is sacred. It is the foundation upon which real love is built. When someone enters your life and their presence feels like a prayer being answered, not because they fix your loneliness, but because they honor your solitude, that's when you know. When their silence feels safe, their laughter feels healing, and their love feels patient, that's when you know. Love from the divine doesn't rush. It doesn't force, it doesn't confuse. It just is. It breathes, it grows, it stays. So, the first sign that God is sending someone who loves you is not in how much they say they love you, or how loudly they show it. It's in how deeply you feel peace when you're with them. Because love that comes from heaven always brings you closer to peace on earth. There is something deeply beautiful about meeting someone who doesn't just admire your presence, but understands your purpose. Most people fall in love with what they see: your smile, your energy, your voice, the way you make them feel. But the ones who are sent by the divine, they fall in love with what drives you, what wakes you up in the morning, what your heart is trying to do for the world. They are not fascinated by the surface of your being, they are drawn to the depth of your becoming. And when love begins at that depth, it feels different, quieter, but infinitely more powerful. You see, when someone truly respects your purpose, they don't compete with it. They don't feel threatened by your calling. They don't try to change your direction to fit their comfort. They stand beside you and remind you why you started. They celebrate your growth, even when it means you're spending more time in the unknown, even when your evolution challenges their own insecurities. Their love isn't about possession, it's about partnership. It's about seeing you as part of something larger, a shared mission, a spiritual alignment, a journey meant to elevate both souls. So many relationships collapse because one person feels unseen in their deeper self. They are loved for their beauty, their warmth, their laughter, but not for their mission. They are appreciated for what they give, but not for what they're becoming. But when someone is sent by God, they recognize that your dreams are sacred. They understand that your purpose is not a hobby or a phase. It's a pulse in your soul that refuses to be silenced. And instead of pulling you away from it, they help you walk toward it. That's how divine love works. It doesn't distract you from your calling, it directs you closer to it. Imagine this. You're talking about your goals, your ideas, your fears, and instead of being met with indifference, you feel heard. Not just listened to, but understood. Their eyes light up when you talk about what you're creating, because they can see what you're trying to build. They don't mock your ambition or tell you to. Be realistic. They fuel your faith. They see potential where others see risk. And that energy, that silent belief, becomes the wind beneath your wings. That's how divine connections feel. They lift you without trying to control your flight. And here's the truthly. When love is from God, it won't ask you to abandon yourself. It won't make you choose between love and purpose. It will teach you that love and purpose can coexist beautifully. The right person will not only stand by you, but sometimes walk ahead to clear the path. They will understand that your calling requires sacrifice, time, and solitude, and they will not make you feel guilty for it. They will see that your purpose is also their blessing because it shapes the person they love. There's something sacred in being with someone who pushes you toward your higher self, not through pressure, but through presence. They remind you who you are when you forget. They speak truth when you doubt yourself. They don't feed your ego, they feed your spirit. And you'll notice something interesting. Being around them doesn't drain you. It energizes you. You find yourself dreaming bigger, thinking clearer, believing again. That's how you know it's divine. It's not an attachment that pulls you into fear. It's a connection that lifts you into faith. Many times, people confuse love with validation. They seek someone who fills the voids rather than someone who fuels the vision. But a love that comes from the divine will never be about filling emptiness. It will be about awakening wholeness. That person won't complete you. They will remind you that you were never incomplete. And that reminder, that awakening, that shared respect for each other's higher purpose, that's the kind of love that lasts. You might notice that when someone like that enters your life, you begin to evolve naturally. You start caring less about how the world sees you and more about how true you are to your path. You feel safe expressing your ideas, your beliefs, your faith, because they don't mock it, they honor it. They see the divine working in you, and they treat that light with reverence. They don't try to outshine you. They shine with you. And together, you both become stronger, clearer, more purposeful, not because of dependency, but because of alignment. The person sent by God will understand that love is not about holding you back for fear of losing you. It's about walking with you while you rise. They won't say, "Don't go." They'll say, "Go, and I'll be right here cheering for you." They'll know that your success doesn't diminish the relationship. It deepens it. Because when two people respect each other's divine calling, they don't compete, they collaborate. Their love becomes a force of creation, not consumption. And that's how you know the difference between a distraction and a destiny. A distraction asks you to forget your purpose. A destiny reminds you of it. A distraction drains your energy and makes you doubt your path. A destiny refills your energy and helps you believe in it again. That's how divine timing works. It brings people who amplify your purpose, not silence it. When someone loves you this way, you'll feel it in the peace you carry and the clarity you gain. Their love won't blur your path. It will make it brighter. It won't cloud your heart. It will clear it. You'll find yourself wanting to give more, create more, and live more truthfully. Not because they asked you to, but because their presence reminds you that you can. That's when you know. This love is not here to distract you from your destiny. It's here to walk beside it. Consistency is one of the most underrated forms of love. We live in a world that glorifies grand gestures, surprise messages, public declarations, sudden sparks of attention, but forgets that real love is built in the quiet moments, the small actions that repeat themselves day after day. When someone truly meant for you enters your life, Their love doesn't appear like a lightning strike. It grows like sunlight, steady and warm. You don't have to question whether they'll show up tomorrow, because they always do. Not with perfection, but with presence. That's how you recognize something sacred. It doesn't promise you the world in a moment of passion. It gives you the world through consistency. There's something incredibly grounding about someone whose energy doesn't fluctuate with their moods, whose care doesn't depend on convenience. You see, many people can love you when it's easy, when things are smooth, when the excitement is high, when the path is clear. But love that is truly from the divine shows itself in the seasons of uncertainty. It's there when you falter, when you're messy, when the world seems unkind. It doesn't run, it stays. And its quiet endurance speaks louder than any words ever could. Because the truth is, love is not a burst of emotion, it's a rhythm. A steady heartbeat that continues even when life gets loud. When someone's consistency feels like an answered prayer, it's not because they do extraordinary things. It's because they do the ordinary things with extraordinary sincerity. They remember the details. They check in when they say they will. They listen, not to reply, but to understand. They're there, not because it's expected, but because it's who they are. And this reliability, this gentle persistence, builds a trust that no words can replace. You stop overanalyzing their intentions. You stop fearing the silence. You stop wondering if you're too much, because in their presence, you feel steady. Most people don't realize that inconsistency creates anxiety because it mirrors uncertainty within us. When someone comes and goes, when their affection is unpredictable, it awakens the part of us that doubts whether we're truly worthy of love. But when someone is consistent, when their presence doesn't depend on your performance, something deep inside you begins to heal. You start to relax. You start to breathe. You realize that love doesn't have to be a guessing game. It can be simple, it can be clear, it can be true. The divine never sends people to confuse you. Confusion is a human creation born from fear and unmet expectations. When love comes from a higher source, it carries with it a sense of reliability. It doesn't promise perfection. It promises presence. The person meant for you won't always get it right, but they will try every day to honor the connection. Even in misunderstanding, they seek peace. Even in disagreement, they choose respect. They don't disappear when things get hard. They hold space for both of you to grow. That's how you know it's love aligned with divine intention. It doesn't vanish when tested. It matures. And the beauty of consistent love is that it teaches you to be consistent with yourself. It reminds you that steadiness is not boring, it's sacred. It's the quiet form of devotion that doesn't seek attention but builds a foundation. When someone shows up consistently, it's not just about their actions. It's about the message their actions send. You can trust this. You can rest here. That's a rare feeling in a world where everything changes too quickly. Think about it. Even nature speaks through consistency. The sun rises every morning, the tides follow their rhythm, the seasons return in their time. That's how creation sustains itself, not through unpredictability, but through divine rhythm. And when someone's love mirrors that same rhythm, when their presence feels like sunrise, steady, reassuring, constant, it's not random, it's a sign. It's divine orchestration reminding you that real love doesn't rush, doesn't vanish, and doesn't need to prove itself through noise. It simply stays. When someone keeps showing up, you begin to understand that love is not about intensity, it's about intentionality. Anyone can make you feel special for a moment, but the one meant for you will make you feel secure through time. They won't keep you wondering where you stand, because they'll make it known through their actions. You'll see their care in how they listen, their loyalty in how they protect the connection, and their love in how they never stop choosing you. Even on the ordinary days, when there's nothing exciting to offer but presence itself, and when you experience that kind of love, you'll realize something profound. Peace isn't found in constant excitement. It's found in consistency. Passion will flicker, excitement will fade, but consistency, that steady current of care, is what builds trust, safety, and depth. You'll begin to value that quiet reassurance more than any romantic grand gesture, because you'll understand that love that lasts doesn't need to prove itself. It simply endures. So, if someone's presence in your life feels reliable, if their care feels steady, if their words align with their actions, that's not ordinary. That's divine design. Because when love is sent by God, it doesn't echo through noise. It hums through time. It doesn't just appear when life is bright. It holds your hand when life turns dark. That's how you know their consistency isn't coincidence. It's heaven reminding you that true love doesn't just say, "I'm here." It shows it again and again and again. There's a kind of love that doesn't need to heal you because its very existence is healing. It doesn't arrive to fix your brokenness with words or promises. It simply stands beside you in such peace that the wounds begin to close on their own. When love comes from a divine place, it carries a softness that doesn't demand attention. It doesn't try to prove its worth through drama or sacrifice. It just is. And in that being, it restores what the world once took from you. When someone is sent into your life by something greater, they won't have to say, "I'll heal you." They won't even know they're doing it. Their presence will calm the storms that you didn't even realize were still raging inside. You'll find yourself breathing differently around them, speaking differently, feeling differently. There will be a lightness in your chest, a gentleness in your thoughts. They won't need to dig into your pain to understand it. They'll just hold space for you, and that space will become sacred. You see, most of us are used to love that hurts. We've been conditioned to believe that struggle makes it meaningful, that pain proves depth. But real love, love that is guided by the divine, doesn't thrive in pain. It dissolves it. It replaces tension with ease, noise with silence, fear with understanding. When someone truly meant for you comes along, their love doesn't demand that you perform healing to earn it. It allows healing to happen through trust, through patience, through quiet presence. The beauty of divine love is that it doesn't need to fix you to feel valuable. It sees you as whole even when you can't see it yourself. It looks at your flaws and doesn't flinch. It listens to your doubts and doesn't run. It sits with you in your chaos without trying to rearrange it. There's something profoundly powerful about that kind of acceptance, because it teaches you that love is not about being saved, it's about being seen. When love is truly from God, it will never make you question your worth. You won't spend nights wondering if you're enough. You won't feel like you're walking on eggshells, afraid to lose what you've found. The right person's love will feel like gentle sunlight on skin that's been too long in the cold. It doesn't rush you to bloom. It simply shines until you're ready. It understands that healing is not a demand but a dance, slow, patient, graceful. The ones sent by the divine don't carry loud promises. They carry quiet energy. They won't come into your life with chaos. They will come with calm. Their very way of being will remind you what peace feels like. You'll notice it in the small things. How they speak with care, how they listen with intention, how their silence feels safe. They won't compete with your past. They'll gently remind you that the present is still worth trusting. That's how healing begins. Not through force, but through softness. And sometimes you'll find yourself healing in ways that surprise you. You'll catch yourself laughing again, dreaming again, believing again. You'll realize you've stopped replaying old wounds because your heart finally feels safe enough to rest. This person doesn't even have to talk about healing. Their presence does the work. And that's how you know their love isn't ordinary. It's divine. Because only divine love can restore what human love once broke. But here's something to remember. Healing love doesn't mean it's always easy. It doesn't mean there will never be disagreement or challenge. It means that even when the waves rise, the connection remains anchored in peace. Arguments don't turn into battles, they turn into understanding. Misunderstandings don't create distance, they create growth. Because when love comes from God, it doesn't seek to win, it seeks to understand. It doesn't punish with silence, it soothes with grace. Many people think that love is supposed to make you feel constantly excited. But love that heals doesn't excite your nerves, it quiets them. It's not the rush of adrenaline, it's the deep sigh of relief. It's the feeling of coming home to yourself through another person. And the more you allow yourself to feel that peace, the more you realize that love was never meant to be a battlefield. It was meant to be a garden, a place where both souls can grow in harmony. When you meet someone who carries that divine energy, you'll recognize it not by how loud their love is, but by how peaceful it feels. They'll touch your heart, not your wounds. They'll see your pain, but they won't make it the center of your story. They'll remind you that you are more than your scars. That love isn't about two broken people trying to fix each other, but two whole souls choosing to share their light. And in time, you'll notice that being with them feels like returning to a natural rhythm you didn't know you lost. You stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. You stop preparing for pain. You begin to live again with quiet trust and a steady heart. That's the beauty of divine love. It doesn't just heal the heart. It restores faith in love itself. So when you find someone whose presence heals you without effort, whose energy brings calm where chaos once lived, understand this. That's no accident. That's divine alignment. Because when love is truly sent from above, it doesn't arrive to test your wounds. It arrives to remind you that you were always worthy of peace. Timing is one of life's quietest mysteries. We often imagine love as something that happens the moment two hearts recognize each other. A collision, a spark, an instant knowing. But divine love doesn't always arrive that way. It doesn't always appear when we expect it, or when we think we're ready. It appears when our souls are ready. And sometimes, that readiness takes time. The divine doesn't just send you the right person, it sends them at the right moment. A moment that aligns not with your impatience, but with your growth. You see, we live in a world that worships urgency. We want everything now: success, happiness, relationships, love. We rush, believing that speed proves importance. But the universe doesn't operate on our clocks. It operates on alignment. There are seasons for everything, for blooming, for resting, for rebuilding, and for meeting someone who's meant to walk beside you. And when that season arrives, you won't have to chase it. You'll just feel it. Many people meet someone wonderful at the wrong time, and they think it's failure. But it's not. It's preparation. The divine isn't denying you love. It's refining you for it. Sometimes the person meant for you enters your life too soon, when your heart is still learning how to hold itself. Or maybe they're still fighting their own storms, not yet ready to give the peace you both deserve. And so life separates you, not as punishment, but as protection. Because real love cannot thrive in unready soil. It needs maturity, stability, stillness. It needs both souls to have found themselves before they can find each other fully. When love is from God, it's not rushed. It flows with divine patience. There's no anxiety, no fear of missing out, no desperation to force something to happen. It unfolds naturally, just as the sunrise doesn't have to be persuaded to rise. It just does, when the world is ready for light. You'll notice that when timing is divine, there's a deep sense of ease. You don't question every silence. You don't feel the need to prove your worth. You simply know, if this is meant to be, it will be, and if not, something even more aligned will come. That quiet trust is how you recognize that the divine hand is at work. It's interesting how timing teaches us humility. It shows us that we are not in control of everything, no matter how much we plan or wish. You might meet someone who stirs your soul, but if you haven't yet learned patience, forgiveness, or self-worth, that love can't yet bloom in its fullness. Timing asks us to grow before granting us what we desire. It's not withholding, it's preparing. Because divine love isn't just about meeting someone who feels right. It's about becoming someone who can keep what feels right. There's something deeply poetic about how life aligns people. Two souls may wander through years of separate experiences, heartbreaks, lessons, and detours, only to cross paths when they've finally learned enough to love gently. That's not coincidence, that's design. Every delay, every disappointment, every wrong relationship, they all become the silent work of time shaping you for the right one. The divine doesn't waste anything. Even heartbreak becomes part of preparation. When timing aligns, love feels different. It's not overwhelming. It's peaceful. It doesn't arrive as a test. It arrives as a gift. You both understand the value of patience because you've lived through the consequences of rushing. You communicate with care because you've learned how silence can hurt. You appreciate presence because you've known absence. You no longer chase intensity, you crave consistency. And that maturity, that calm, knowing maturity, is the result of divine timing. The right person at the wrong time can still teach you beautiful lessons. But the right person at the right time, that's when love becomes effortless. It's when two lives that once ran parallel finally merge into one path, not through force, but through readiness. It's when you no longer need to hold on tightly because you both know this connection isn't fragile. You both grew strong enough to carry it. That's the power of divine timing. It doesn't just give you love, it gives you the capacity to sustain it. It's easy to grow frustrated when things don't happen when we want them to. We mistake delays for denial. But think about it. Every great thing in life requires time to mature. The fruit ripens only after the season, the tide turns only when the moon shifts, and flowers only bloom when the sun has risen high enough. Love is no different. The divine knows that premature love can destroy what mature love could heal. So it waits, and when the time is right, everything begins to align almost effortlessly. Conversations flow, paths cross, hearts open. It all begins to make sense, not because you forced it, but because it was always meant to be. So when love seems delayed, when the connection you desire hasn't yet arrived, or when someone meaningful drifts away, trust that timing is doing its sacred work. The universe is never late. It's simply waiting for you to become the version of yourself that can handle what you've been asking for. And when that moment comes, it will feel natural. No resistance, no confusion, no need to question. Because divine love doesn't demand timing to bend. It bends you into readiness for timing. So remember, love that is truly meant for you will never require rushing or chasing. It will come when you've both grown enough to meet it without fear. And when it does, you'll understand why every delay, every pause, every heartbreak was necessary. Because what's meant for you isn't waiting to test your patience. It's waiting to meet your maturity. When love is truly from the divine, it doesn't mirror the noise of the world. It mirrors the patience and purity of the source that sent it. It's not love that rushes to possess. It's love that desires to understand. It's not a flame that burns out in its own intensity, but a steady light that guides you forward through every season of your becoming. When someone's love reflects that divine energy, you'll recognize it in its stillness. You'll sense it in how safe it feels, how calm it remains, and how it never loses its integrity, even when life gets messy. Most people confuse love with attachment. They think that to love someone means to hold tightly, to keep, to claim. But divine love doesn't work that way. It doesn't cling, it connects. It doesn't take, it gives. When someone loves you with a love that mirrors God's own nature, they don't chain your freedom, they honor it. They see that love isn't meant to bind, it's meant to bless. You'll notice this in the quiet ways they respect your individuality, your dreams, your space. They don't try to mold you into what they desire. They cherish who you already are and gently encourage you toward what you're meant to be. And this kind of love is patient, deeply, quietly patient. It doesn't rush the process of growth or demand constant reassurance. It understands that real connection takes time, that trust is built slowly, that two souls learning to walk together will stumble. But even when you falter, this love doesn't withdraw. It stays steady, without resentment or blame. It holds space for you to breathe, to evolve, to heal. That's the kind of patience only divine energy can inspire. The patience to love without expectation, to wait without fear, to give without keeping score. When love is pure, it doesn't hide behind conditions. It doesn't say, "I'll love you if you do this," or "I'll stay if you become that." It simply says, "I love you," and means it through the good and the difficult, through the certainty and the doubt. It's not naive, it's aware. It sees your flaws, your inconsistencies, your shadows, and it chooses to stay kind. Because divine love understands that purity isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up with honesty and compassion, even when it's not easy. And then there's purpose, perhaps the most beautiful part of love that comes from above. When someone loves you in a way that aligns with divine will, their love doesn't distract you from your purpose, it deepens it. They don't pull you away from your calling, they remind you of it. Together, You don't just build a relationship, you build meaning. Every conversation becomes an unfolding of truth. Every shared silence becomes a reflection of peace. You realize that love, when it's right, doesn't just exist between two hearts, it radiates outward, touching everything around you. Love that carries purpose will transform you, not by force, but by reflection. You begin to see yourself differently because you're being seen through the lens of grace. You start to forgive more easily, speak more gently, and dream more boldly. You become more aligned with who you truly are. That's the power of love that mirrors God's. It doesn't just make you feel loved, it makes you become love. It's important to understand that divine love doesn't always look like fairy tales. Sometimes it's quiet and steady, without the noise of constant drama or intensity. Sometimes it's in the way they understand your silence without needing an explanation. Sometimes it's in the